Just when you thought the mainstream media couldn't sink any lower, they've just outdone themselves. A Delta Airlines plane crashes in Toronto. That's Toronto, Canada. And somehow CNN, NBC, and Chuck Schumer are trying to pin it on President Trump. The footage we're about to show you reveals exactly what happened in that crash, and it has absolutely nothing to do with U.S. policy. But rather than report the truth, that this was a weather-related incident under Canadian air traffic control, they've manufactured a narrative so absurd it exposes their entire anti-Trump agenda for what it really is. Yes, absurdity. And while the media spreads their cold lies about the Toronto crash, Americans are facing a real crisis, skyrocketing heating costs. And just like the mainstream media's failing narrative, traditional heating solutions are leaving Americans out in the cold. That's why I rely on this revolutionary portable heater from StayWarmNow.com. While the media tries to blame Trump for events in Canada, you can take control of your heating bills right here at home. Get up to 60% off and free shipping today. Don't let fake news or high heating bills freeze you out. Visit StayWarmNow.com. It's linked down below. Okay, are you ready for this? Here we go. A Delta Airlines plane crash. It crash landed at a Toronto airport, flipping completely upside down. Now, you've probably seen some of these pictures, some of the footage. We've got it here. I mean, this is terrifying. And, when I first saw these images, I'm like, it looks like there were survivors. You don't see like this massive ball of flame, but the oddity here was that the plane was completely upside down. Okay. Now, here's some footage from inside the Delta crash in Toronto.
Go. Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take it down. Put that phone away. Go.
Holy. 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 Oh my. Yo, I was just on the plane. Oh my God. Yo, I was just on the plane. Holy.
I watched this plane crash. I watched the video of the plane crash as I was departing to go to CPAC. And literally, our plane was taking off and I'm watching video of a plane crash. It was terrifying. It was a Delta Airlines CRJ-900 crashed and settled upside down at Toronto Pearson Airport. Thankfully, all passengers survived and accounted for. Absolutely great news. Now, Caroline Levitt, 7 hours ago, just delivered a slam dunk fact check on Chuck Schumer for blaming the Delta plane crash on Trump.
It's incredibly irresponsible.
We don't know if it was a failure of equipment or if it was weather, if it was pilot error, if it was something else. And yet you get the minority leader in the Senate immediately pointing fingers at the president. Your response?
It's incredibly irresponsible for Chuck Schumer to say such a thing when the investigation is still underway. And as you rightfully pointed out, John, this crash unfortunately took place in Canadian airspace with Canadian air traffic controllers overseeing it. And the facts about the FAA are that no air traffic controllers have been let go by Secretary Duffy or this new administration. In fact, Secretary Duffy has put great emphasis on hiring the best and the brightest air traffic controllers who want to be part of the FAA, and President Trump signed a very strong executive order to ensure that the FAA and all federal government agencies are focused on merit and skill-based hiring. We want the best and the brightest, the most competent individuals in positions, especially of public safety at the FAA, the Department of Transportation, and all departments across this federal government, so we can best serve the American people. So while Secretary Buttigieg and the Biden administration sat on their hands when it came to aviation safety For 4 years, this administration is taking it seriously and is actively recruiting the best and the brightest to join this very important field.
We don't know if
The best and the brightest for America. Winds and ice may have been a factor in the crash landing at the Toronto Airport. Delta Airlines Mitsubishi CRJ-900, call sign N932XJ, crashed onto the runway during a hard landing at Toronto Pearson. Okay, I think we have some video footage. I guess this is some distant footage. I mean, look at this stuff. This is all because of President Trump, right? Yeah, give me a break here.
Could happen once you're in the air. Very, very easy to control and continue on your way up in the sky. But the takeoff and landing is the times where crew members will tell you that that is the times where things could go wrong. So again, this site here live right now for you out in Toronto at the International Airport. Flight upside down after this crash landing, and we'll continue to bring you.
Okay, we've got more here. CNN host Dana Bash places the blame of the Toronto plane crash on President Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge.
Up on this. This is happening against the backdrop of massive cuts across the federal government, including at the FAA. Just going to put some up on.
I mean, this is all happening on the backdrop of Donald Trump.
Screen. Hundreds of FAA employees have been laid off as part of Elon Musk going through all the federal agencies and then
Okay. I mean, FAA, they work in the United States. I mean, the fact that CNN would go this far and reach this far, it just goes to show you that they just keep going lower and lower.
On the FAA, we have 10% of the CDC workforce, 3,400 at the U.S. Forest Service, 2,200 at the Interior Department, 2,000 at the Department of Energy, 1,000 at the VA.
I mean, first of all, I take one look at those numbers and I applaud them. I say double them. You know, cut them all. Anyone who's worthless in the federal government should lose their jobs.
Yeah, listen, and so far, at least if you kind of look at how Americans, Trump voters in particular, are reacting, so far this is something that they haven't really been affected by. You do hear from some GOP senators who are in some of these states where they're public parks, for instance, raising some alarms. But so far, these cuts, because they are directed at federal workers who the right has been expert at demonizing as lazy, as working from home, as costing too much, because they've been demonized, a lot of Americans say, too bad, so sad that they're being axed. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll see if there is any trickle-down effect for average Americans.
I just want to read what Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, said. I'm thankful that everyone in the flight incident in Toronto that took off from Minneapolis is safe, but we keep seeing these incidents day after day. Meanwhile, Trump's doing massive layoffs at the FAA, including safety specialists, and making our skies less and less safe.
Yeah, I mean, this is a despicable narrative being pushed. New audio between a nearby medevac helicopter and air traffic control at Toronto Pearson shows crew responding after the crash. All 80 people on board were evacuated.
But then they said, hey, look, Terry, you can hear the pilots in this audio talk about this, and they go back and forth. And there's also a medevac helicopter in the area. They were on the approach. Then they were told to hold off. But then they said, hey, look, we're a medevac helicopter. We can assist with this. I think we have that audio. If so, let's listen.
Flight 1 medevac, I got no traffic here, so just let me know what you'd like to do. We just had a crash on runway 23 here. Flight 1 medevac, just so you are, there's people outside walking around the aircraft there.
Yeah, we've got it. The aircraft there's upside down and burning.
And that is the conversation between the medevac helicopter and the tower. As soon as they heard about this incident, they went over to that area, went overhead, and they see these people out and about. And that is the good news, that all 80 passengers, we now know, made it out of this aircraft safely. Terry,
that is good news. But the bad news is they're using this narrative against President Trump New York Post, 6 hours ago, Delta Airlines plane flipped upside down after extreme weather. Extreme weather, including 20 inches of snow. Yeah, President Trump called down the snow, didn't he? Here's more. Insane footage released by ABC shows survivors inside the wreckage, still strapped to their seats. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, thank God they're alive. Thank God they are alive. Oh my goodness. Here is Nate Foy in his report just 4 hours ago.
Comments that he made
this morning.
Hey, John, well, I had the opportunity to ask the Toronto Pearson fire chief to clarify some comments that he made last night that sparked some confusion because he suggested that the elements, the snow and the wind, may not have played such a major role in the plane crash. Take a look at our exchange earlier. Can you tell me what it was like out there on the runway as you were doing your job? Was the runway dry and the wind gust? How did it impact you?
I know I provided a little bit of information yesterday for transparency. Today, now we have an active investigation. Therefore, any of those questions would have to be directed toward Transportation Safety Board.
Yeah, John, and now that plane will stay on the runway for the next 48 hours as the Transportation Safety Board of Canada leads the investigation with help from the FAA. The airport CEO also credited the plane's cabin crew who helped lead the evacuation with the plane upside down.
Everything, drop it. Come on.
Seriously, a miracle that nobody was killed. Take a look at how the plane got like that. It comes down actually right side up, but you see it comes down on its side. The wing immediately detaches, and then the plane slides down the runway with fire under it as the fuselage rotates upside down.
There was no warning from the pilot. There was no physical warning either. I didn't feel like anything was wrong until kind of just like the second the wheels touched the ground. Then it all kind of went mayhem from there.
John, you mentioned how bad the winter can be here in Toronto. And one note about that, officials just said that Toronto received more snowfall since just last Thursday than they did.
I want to go back. Watch the landing. I mean, the landing itself, look at how fast he's coming down. I mean, this is a hard landing. I've flown on some planes in my time, and I remember just recently I was traveling, and we had a hard landing at an airport. I mean, it was a hard one. Even the flight attendants remarked at just how hard it was. It was kind of scary, but this is something completely different. Watch closely. Let's watch.
Seriously, a miracle that nobody was killed. Take a look at how the plane got like that. It comes down actually right side up, but you see it comes down on its side. The wing immediately detaches, and then the plane slides down the runway with fire under it as the fuselage rotates upside down.
There was no warning from the pilot.
Unbelievable. Okay. CNN aviation correspondent Peter Muntean's initial analysis. Incredible work by the fire and rescue.
Side of the fuselage. Incredible work by the crash fire rescues there at Toronto Pearson International Airport, getting water and foam on this airplane that was very clearly on fire. What you're looking at now is the right side of the fuselage. The airplane is inverted, is upside down. You can see the nose landing gear there on the left. The fire crews did an incredible job of getting this put out quickly, and you can see the emergency exits, not only the door one on the right side of the airplane, but also the mid-cabin emergency exit open and folks coming out of it. This is the key. If you are watching this and you are a regular traveler, always leave your stuff behind. That's slow.
Okay, NBC, Timcast, NBC blames Trump for Toronto plane crash. Let's listen to Tim Pool.
Burst into flames, and new video has emerged of the Delta plane crash in Toronto. The CRJ jet landed hard, burst into flames, and then began to roll, ultimately flipping over. I believe everyone is okay. There are some people that sustained pretty critical injuries, but I don't think anybody is at risk of losing their lives right now. Now, interestingly, NBC pundit blames Trump for Toronto plane crash. Yeah, even though it happened in Canada, it's Trump's fault. Well, you see, Donald Trump, as well as many conservative commentators, were talking about DEI at these corporations where they were choosing to hire staff based on race and who they prefer to sleep with instead of their capabilities in flying a plane. For years now, there have been warnings from people on the right that this could lead to plane crashes. Notably, Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh had been saying, hey, man, we might see some planes crash. Well, as of right now, nobody knows exactly what happened. But according to officials, there was no crosswind and the runway was dry. So how did this plane crash? New video has emerged of the—
Okay. And now we have this Greater Toronto Airports Authority. President and CEO gives promising update. There were no fatalities. We do not know of any passengers having critical injuries. Oh, and now, oh my, really? Oh my goodness. Really? Oh, this doesn't surprise me. Okay. The View's Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Hostin blame the recent plane crashes, including the crash in Toronto, on Elon Musk and Doge.
Don't. Thank God this happened here in New York, because I have been panicking over all this insanity with these planes.
Yeah.
You know, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. Like, so let's start with the string of mass firings by Elon Musk's Doge. Has sparked a lot of chaos, confusion, and fear, because Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is defending the firing of 400 FAA workers. But former Secretary Pete Buttigieg slammed the firings of employees who control communications, radio, computer systems, all given all the confusion. So is this really the time to be laying off folks? And who is exactly getting laid off?
Well, they're seeming to be laying off probationary workers. When you work for the Department of Justice or work for the government, sometimes you have a 2-year probationary period. Sometimes you have a 1 year or 3 year. So these are people that are in their probationary periods and they're not protected yet. And so they're just kind of getting rid of them willy-nilly. The other thing that they're doing is the union spokesperson said that the people that have been affected are maintenance mechanics, aeronautical information specialists, environmental protection specialists, aviation safety assistants, and management and program assistants. And I just want to just call back to what Pete Buttigieg tweeted. He said, we put safety first, drove down close calls, grew traffic control, and had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our...
Okay, that's enough of that. Okay. A passenger in the Toronto plane crash said, it's amazing that we're still here after the plane turned upside down on the runway. Here is another shot, closer shot of the plane coming down. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. When pressed by News Nation's Al Caprari on what may have caused the plane crash, airport president Deborah Flint says, not a time for theories or speculation. Okay, now check this out. We have this. Okay, after talking to CNN's aviation expert that said there's no common threat among recent plane crashes, Dana Bash kicks off a panel discussion. Listen to this.
There's no threat. Pete, thank you. We're extremely lucky to have you with us. Explain everything to us. Talk to you soon. I'm back here with our fantastic panel.
Okay, I want to make it clear. The expert comes on, okay? The expert comes on, sets them straight, but then they continue to go on with their narrative, completely ignoring everything the expert just said. Okay? Here, listen to this. CNN ignores its own plane expert as it accuses Trump of firing plane experts. On Tuesday's edition of CNN's Inside Politics, aviation correspondent Pete Montine told host Dana Bash that it appeared the Delta Airlines flight crashed in Toronto, did so due to a landing gear malfunction. He also noted how there's no common thread linking it with other recent plane crashes, but that didn't stop Bash and her assembled panel from noticing this happening against the backdrop of massive cuts. Listen.
Pete, thank you. We're extremely lucky to have you with us. Explain everything to us.
Here, let me get that other clip. Okay, here's it. This is the better clip here. Let's see. That was news. Okay, here. Okay, here. This
About
is the clip.
what is going on here. Pete, thank you. We're extremely lucky to have you with us. Explain everything to us. Talk to you soon. I'm back here with our fantastic panel. Let's broaden it out a little bit to talk about what is going on here in Washington. As he said, there's no thread between all of those except the obvious, which is that planes are crashing, which is frightening. But this is happening against the backdrop of massive cuts across the federal government, including...
Did you hear what she said there? She used the exact same language that Whoopi Goldberg and the Clucks on The View said.
At the FAA. Just going to put some up on the screen. Hundreds of FAA employees have been laid off as part of Elon Musk going through all the federal agencies. And then beyond the FAA, we have 10% of the CDC workforce, 3,400 at the U.S. Forest Service, 2,200.
Okay, so let's just set the record straight, shall we? Okay, a plane crashed in Toronto due to severe weather conditions and a mechanical failure. Thank God, all 80 passengers survived. A miracle. That should be the headline. Instead, NBC tries to connect it to Trump's federal workforce adjustments. CNN blames it on FAA staffing, and Chuck Schumer makes reckless accusations about U.S. policy affecting Canadian aviation. This isn't just bad journalism, it's deliberate disinformation. The mainstream media's desperation to blame Trump for everything, including events in foreign countries, shows just how far they have fallen from actual news reporting. So here is what we need you to weigh in on. Should news organizations that deliberately spread misinformation about the president be banned from White House press briefings? Share your thoughts in the comments below and fight fake news with our MAG Avengers gear exclusively at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.